Today I set my alarm for 5:31 a.m. so I could wake up and tell you about my 5 favorite horror movies of 2024. I'm Real Slim Katie 25. Let's get into it. Now, this is by no means a definitive ranking. There's a lot of horror movies I didn't get to see this year, a lot of movies that went straight to streaming, some that I just didn't see. You'll know which ones I didn't see. But out of the movies I did watch, these are my top 5. Also, at the time I'm filming this, it is before Christmas currently, so Nosferatu, wherever it would land on my list, will not be qualifying today because I just haven't seen it yet. The first movie I want to talk about, I found super late, like months after it came out. This is one of those movies that when it was in the theaters, I wanted to go see it, but my schedule just did not align when they were playing the film. But with a super charming period feel and a really fun shtick of storytelling, stealing into 5th place, Late Night with the Devil. Super big highlights in this movie. David Dastmalchian, sorry if I'm butchering that name, did an amazing job in the starring role. I really enjoyed how this movie kind of blended genres. It almost had like an analog horror feel as you're watching the found footage, and it's introduced as you're watching a documentary of a filmed TV event, but it also kind of allowed you to peek behind the curtains and go behind the scenes. There were some super interesting practical effects in this one, and it was pretty gripping. It had me asking questions like, is this a supernatural movie? Is it a cult movie? What am I watching here? And ultimately, the blurred subgenre really worked in its favor because I looked on this movie pretty favorably. Next up is a movie that I think is going to be pretty high on a lot of people's lists, mostly because I think this was one of the more talked about movies this year in terms of horror. This is the horror movie that I feel like I saw the most non-horror people talking about. And with a big star attached and an absolutely wacky promotional campaign, I'm not surprised. Coming in at 4th place, Longlegs. Neon had just such a really interesting throw with this movie. They're normally known for making these awesome slow burn horror movies, and this definitely delivers on that, but they really bring in the audience by hiding a lot from them at first. They also take the audience along for some really fun plot twists, just like cruising for a minute after a big top hat. And excuse my absolutely shoehorned roller coaster references. I feel like if maybe I mention them more, Louis will let me make videos about them. But Longlegs was super fun. I did have some issues with the way that they did reveal information. I just kind of feel like I wish they had left some stuff to the imagination. But honestly, it was a really fun film. Start to finish, it took you on a really wild journey. Let me in now, and it will be nice. Number 3 is a movie that I enjoyed so much on the first watch. I saw it twice in theaters. And if you watch my videos, you already know that this movie is Heretic. I was immediately drawn to Heretic because I don't normally get into religious horror. As somebody with a really complicated relationship with religion myself, it takes a lot for me to want to be there. But aside from it being a horror movie, I was just like, I want to hear what the hell Hugh Grant's character has to say next. It's the most introspective I've been with my own religion in a hot minute, and it's a movie with a lot of like, oh, the shot's important. Can you figure out why it's going to come back later? It might not be my favorite third act in the world, but Heretic left a really good taste in my mouth, and I find myself recommending it to so many people. It's a great intro psychological horror movie. There's not a lot of gore, and it has this fun, is it supernatural element? Is it a cult element? Which I think makes it very accessible to be a lot of people's first intro to thrillers or psychological horror. But I'm a creep. I'm a weirdo. What the hell am I doing here? I know these are thoughts you're thinking right now, but you can also recognize that there are lyrics to a popular song. That shit has me cackling. Coming in hot with maybe the saddest horror movie this year. Take 1, 2, 3 guesses for I Saw the TV Glow. Now, I know a lot of people didn't love this movie because it is not traditional horror. If you go into this expecting a full-fledged slasher or whatever, you're not going to get what you want from this movie. It's not jump scare kind of horror. It's really in your head. And I don't know if this movie has the same resonance for people outside the trans community. Because honestly, this movie stuck with me all year. And I specifically was like, I don't have the emotional capacity to watch this again. Because half of the movie was just me sitting there with my jaw open, tears in my eyes. Above that, I loved the visual themes in this movie, the recurring of neon, the period it was set in. Just overall, the color palette was exciting. Yeah, and this movie scares the shit out of me. Because what could be scarier than living your life miserable and unhappy until you wake up one day and you realize it's pretty much too late to change, so you're going to have to suffer for the rest of your life. But I do feel like this movie has a really nice message of hope at the end. Definitely worth checking out if you haven't already. Now, if you've watched my other reviews this year, then you will not be at all surprised. I think I mentioned earlier that a lot of people outside of the horror community were talking about Longlegs. But if there's one that's going to top it, it might be this movie. Because it comes at the genre from almost like a comedy parody approach and was marketed as this like sci-fi drama David Cronenberg-esque film. And I don't think I've seen people talk about body horror like this ever, but you guys already know that I'm talking about The Substance. And as we already know at this point, The Substance has gotten hella Golden Globes nominations. And that's not to say by any means that nominations, awards, accolades are, a badge of merit for a film or truly say anything about the film's quality or worth. But obviously the film's public reception has a lot to do with how the film will be viewed and the way it is remembered. I will not get over the fact that with The Substance, I mean, I am not a squeamish person. I've fallen asleep during every Terrifier movie at least once. I love to listen to extreme horror books in public. I've gotten really good at my poker face. But The Substance literally had me biting my lips, cringing physically. I think a lot of it is the idea that it's like you are hurting yourself in this movie. Plus, I'm gonna go back a second because with the awards, horror movies do not get nominated for things. They don't. Recently, Parasite, which I wouldn't even really necessarily categorize as horror, but it's hard with a film the genre bends so much. Where do you place that, you know? And Get Out. Movies have to really prove themselves in an audience outside of their niche to be accepted by these fucking old as hell voters. But The Substance was everything. It made me super uncomfortable. It had amazing performances, crazy visual effects, and a lot of practical prosthetics and makeup work. Overall, I thought just an incredible production design. Plus, The Substance is Barat. Not like I even really fucking know what that means. I just know that it is. Anyways, if you want to hear any more about these movies, I maybe do already have a video about each of them. Maybe they're linked on our homepage. So if you want to hear me talk in detail about any of those films, seriously, go wriggle your way down to Geek Gourmet and check those out. I'm honestly sad that I'm making this before Christmas because from everything I've heard, Nosferatu really could make this list. But we'll see. I am an endless optimist. I just want to like every movie and have a good time and be happy all the time. Anyways, if you like this kind of content, me and my best friend Louie make stuff like this all the time, so feel free to subscribe and check out some more videos. But most of all, what do you think of my ranking? What were your top horror movies of the year? Please let me know. I want to hear desperately. What did I leave off my list? What's on your list that you think nobody's watched, but they absolutely should? I take recommendations very seriously. Anyways, I'm so looking forward to the next year of horror, but man, it's gonna be hard to top this one. I will see you guys more in the new year.